Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 256 to 263 for the 6th to the 13th of November. 13th of November is yesterday. So I've been away for a week because I've been running a football tournament. I did not get kidnapped or I did not get jailed by either the Ukrainians or the Russians, and I'm definitely not having emotional damage over whatever shit is happening over at the Kherson region. So stop speculating, stop coping. So anyway, nice cope. And this is going to be quite a difficult summary to handle because there's way too many days, and in fact I wasn't able to make it into one map. I have to actually do it over 3 maps. So do your best to keep up. So anyway, let's start off with some shoot downs by the Ukrainian side. So Russian Sukhoi 25 is shot down over Ukraine on the 7th, and on the 10th there's a Ka-52 Russian attack helicopter shot down over Ukraine. The exact location of the shoot down is unknown, and it wasn't reported by the Ukrainian Air Force in their Telegram channel as well. So I have no idea exactly which fronts they are shot down. My assumption is definitely going to be the Kherson or the Southern Front. And there's no weird statements to cover, and actually there are weird statements, but I can't really go and cover them because we have a lot to go through. And moving on to the Southern Front. So at the Southern Front, this is the situation up to the day of the 10th. So it's from the 6th or the 7th to the 10th. So there is fighting reported over at the Kherson Front, where the Ukrainians were attacking Bielorussia, Zaporizhzhia, and there was fighting also just, I think this is the wrong icon, near Novokayamka. There was fighting in the nearby to Duchany, as well as there's an attack towards Koshkarivka. The attack wasn't successful, and but by the 10th of November, the Russian forces reportedly has been retreating, and the Ukrainians quickly took advantage and captured multiple locations on the 10th, including Borozensky, Brutkinsky, Charlove, and they also captured Snihurivka, as well as Kaiselivka, Myriolibivka, Pravdane, as well as the long been battered over for the Alexandrivka. In terms of shoot downs, there was a helicopter Mi-8 shot down over Zaporizhzhia. There's a Sukhoi 25, Ukrainian Sukhoi 25 shot down over Mikhailivsky. And then there was also this helicopter shot down over Novokayamka. And this is a sign that the defenses has broken, or the Russian forces has already started to retreat. And interestingly, on the 10th, in the Russian Defense Ministry report, they mentioned that the Russian forces is now maneuvering their troops into the prepared position over on the southern bank of the Dnipro River. So this is actually a very early sign, or not early sign, but a sign that they are going to do the retreat. And the retreat was already foreshadowed 2 weeks ago, when the new commander already in the interview said that they're going to make a very tough decision following the evacuation. It was also the same time where they announced the evacuation of the civilians across the entire of the northern bank of the Kherson region, where the Russians have control, and also as well as on the southern bank, all the civilians are also evacuated to Crimea, just next to the Dnipro River. And interestingly, there was a weird incident where the deputy governor of Kherson died in a road accident. Kirill Stremosov. This actually wouldn't have really catch my attention, except that I remember seeing this guy Kirill Stremosov being very critical of the Russian military. So on the October the 6th, he actually released a video criticizing the Russian military officers for the losses to the Ukrainian sides, and they say that the defense minister should shoot himself. And that was during the time where the Russian forces lost this entire northern side, the northern part of the Kherson region here, over this area. And I suspect that this is not a mere road accident, but I suspect this might be a Russian assassination, because this is a wartime situation, and any criticism, especially by someone so high ranking in the war zone, is definitely not going to be tolerated. And I suspect this might be a targeted assassination by the Russian side to silence him, or to get him out of the system before things get even more trickier. Because maybe with this retreat, maybe this guy will make even more noise, so they better just kill him off before they actually retreat to the southern bank. That might be also be the situation. And the next day, the worst fear of the pro-Russian crowd came true. The Ukrainians quickly bleeds across the entire of Kherson region in the northern part, including also at the Mykolaiv front, where the Ukrainian forces captured Stanislav, they captured Klapaya, and very soon they already reported have entered Kherson city. They were welcomed by around 80,000 to 100,000 Ukrainian civilians that chose to remain within the city, and the Ukrainian forces continue to capture all the major frontline positions, including Ishchenka, Sadok, Kushchensky, Zaporizhzhia, Petikaki, and on the banks of the Dnipro River, they rushed down the road. They captured the border, the beach town of Slabokivka, Kashkarivka. They followed down the road to Milove. They captured Novokyri, and they even arrived at Borislav on the very same day. They basically just rushed down unimpeded, which also means that by the 11th there is no more Russian troops in this region. That allows them to actually progress this quickly. And then another force coming down from Zaporizhzhia region also spread out to capture Stepne, Urzane, Rakivka, and the forces over here at the Stukistavok region captured Tamarine, and then we went to Lvivske, Otrubi, Visoke, and then they went westward towards Chakine and Limanets. Another force actually went southward to this Tiakhanka and this region over here. And so according to the Russian side, they actually, Russian Defense Ministry basically just put it rather bluntly that all the civilians that has expressed their desire to abandon the northern part of the river in Kherson region are assisted in the evacuation. In this, they actually tactically announced that there are civilians that decided not to join the Russian side. And according to the Russian Defense Ministry, they say that 30,000 Russian troops and 5,000 heavy equipment has been evacuated over to the southern bank. And they also say that this includes all the Russian equipment that are supposed to be repaired. They are also redrawn. And they say that their repair unit has begun the maintenance work. And they say that no hardware armament has been abandoned on the northern bank due to their effective management and actions. However, according to pro-Russian sources, they said, and also, of course, videos being released online shows that there are abundant equipments in the northern bank, including, I think, some trucks that are fully operational. And this caused outrage by Ryba, the pro-Russian source, saying that there are units on the ground that falsely reported their division and situation to the higher ups. And this is actually a real situation, because the people in the Ministry of Defense would not know what the hell is happening on the ground, except that based on the reports, basically SITREPs, situation reports that they submitted. And if the ground forces say that, oh, they have redrawn everything that they could, then the Russian leadership would think that the troops has indeed redrawn everything, and they just report as such. But in reality, the video that came out shows that that is not true, and which is why there is this discrepancy between the Russian Ministry of Defense report as well versus what we see on social media. And so So as such, I did say this already, that all the civilians that desired to be part of Russia has followed the Russian down to the southern bank of the Dnipro River, and then and for today, as of now, the front line actually looks like this now. There is no longer any Russian positions north of the Dnipro River. Everything is south, and the Russians are now holding up prepared positions along the entire Dnipro River. And if you have seen the History Legends video, he actually highlighted that there is actually 3 lines of defense, and so the 3 lines of defense actually 3 prepared line of defense. Reason was because they need to prepare for the possible flooding due to the destruction of the Novakhovka dam. Should the dam be compromised, be it by accident or deliberately, the river will actually expand and widen. And because of the widening of the river, the first line of defense might get flooded, because they need to put out a defense further up front to disallow the Ukrainians to have a beachhead. And but in a situation of a flooding, then this first line of defense might be gone, and that's why they had the second line. And if the flooding is very bad, maybe the second line will be gone, and then they have a third line. And some of these defenses actually are including prefabricated concrete pillboxes. So that is actually very, very interesting, and this actually is a sign that the Russians have already prepared and planned to withdraw to the southern bank, probably as early as a month ago, or even longer, maybe 2 months ago. Because all these prefabricated pillboxes has been seen for some time already, and they have been transported to all these regions over the past month. And this is a sign that the Russian plan to withdraw to the southern bank might precede even the appointment of this new Russian commander. And just that maybe perhaps the Russian commander made the decision which the previous commander did not dare to make. And so there are some rumors that I saw, which I have not indicated on the map, that there is an amphibious landing at Heroiske. I'm not sure if this is real, so I did not indicate, because I only saw it on Twitter. I haven't seen it on the pro-Russian sources or any trusted sources that I have been following. So we'll wait. Maybe tomorrow SITREP may actually cover that. And but if true, then the Ukrainian actions is indeed really fast, because they just captured the northern bank and they really want to quickly not allow the Russian forces to actually regroup or to prepare their defense further, and they quickly try to launch an amphibious assault to try to create a beachhead. And the Kinsman spurt here, this entire area is one of the prime target for them to build up for the Ukrainian side to build up a beachhead that they can actually use as the launch pad to liberate the rest of the Kherson region. Tentatively, the Russian forces, although they claim that they did not lose much troops in this withdrawal, I'm quite sure that morale and the emotional impact, the trauma is definitely much harder on the forces, because they may feel that they have not lost, but yet they have to swallow this defeat. Definitely is not going to be easy for the Russian troops involved. Definitely it has not been easy for the pro-Russian crowd or the pro-Russian Telegram channels or accounts that has been following the war, or being fanboy or fangirl over this conflict. So that's all from the southern front. Let's move on to the Zaporizhzhia Line. So at the Zaporizhzhia Line, I think I can actually on all the layers. There is no fighting reported over this region except for this offensive by the Ukrainians on the 9th of November at Vremivka. Other than that, we have not seen any fighting just yet. What is interesting, however, is that there is 3 separate shootdowns of the Mi-8 transport helicopter of the Ukrainian Air Force over on the 10th at Rivianka, on the 11th of Remivka as well, and on the 12th is Yasna Polyana. And this is very weird because they are all shut down quite a distance away around the same region, and it's actually quite a distance away, from the front line, 30-40 kilometers, which means that there might be a problem with surface-to-air missiles systems for the Ukrainian side over this region, for the Russian forces to be taking down all these helicopters. So the Russians claim that it's by the Russian Air Force. So for these two is by the Russian Air Force. This one was not indicated. So it seems like the possibility that the Russian Air Force long-range attack air-to-air missiles has been really effective. And moving on to the Donetsk Front. Let me on everything, and maybe that might help a bit to see everything. So over at the Donetsk Front, over the situation at Pelivka, the fighting continued to be reported at Pelivka. The Ukrainian forces have been trying to counterattack as well. However, as per the latest information, the Russian forces had already secured a strong footing over at the northern bank of the river of the Kashlakh River. So according to the Russian pro-Russian sources, including Ryba, they say that the Russian forces currently trying to clear out the northern part of Pelivka. The problem with this is that while they are trying to clear up, the Ukrainians are using the high grounds and the buildings from Voleda to fire at the Russian forces. So it's still very difficult, and let's see how this goes. There previously, before I came back, I did read about rumors that Pelivka wasn't really that captured, and the pro-Ukrainian source Deep State UA say that the capture of Pelivka is not true. They say that the Russians only captured the southeastern part. However, Ryba seems to be very insistent that the fighting is now in the northern part. The Russians is clearing out. So it really depends on what you want to believe. The Ukrainians also launched counter-offensive against Mikhailsk on the 10th and on the 12th. A Sukhoi 25 of the Ukrainian Air Force was shot down over Voleda on the 8th. And you can see that the Ukrainians are not giving up, and they are trying their best to try to push out, as they continue to push out at Stepny on the 12th, and at Novo Mikhailivka on the 8th and the 9th, the Ukrainians were the ones actually on the offensive, and after the offensive has failed or drizzled out, and the Russians then resumed their offensive on the 9th and the 12th at Novo Mikhailivka. And moving to the Marinka region, the Russians continue to attack Marinka on the 8th to the 10th, and the 11th, I have no information on the 11th because everyone's focus was on Kherson. No one reporting about this region. And on the 12th and 13th, the Russian forces continue to be fighting around Marinka. And there is fighting reported at Krasnohorivka only on the 13th, at least on the report that I've seen. So this the part of the Donetsk Front over here on the western and the southwest of Donetsk city. Over at the Pisky region, a few important developments is that the Donetsk People's Republic have announced the capture and clearing of the entire of the Donetsk airport region. So the Donetsk airport and the surrounding region has finally been secured entirely by the Donetsk forces, and fighting continues to be at Opyne, and according to Ryba, the Donetsk People's Republic forces have captured Opyne, and currently they are doing clearing operations. Although I have to also highlight that the capturing of the town doesn't mean that the town is safe, because if the Ukrainians are along all these tree lines, they can still definitely fire on the Russian forces within the village. So the clearing operations is still ongoing. The situation over at Vodian is also not so good. The Russian forces have been pushing Vodian region, and according to initial reports, the Ukrainian forces is now withdrawing from the the village, because they are unable to hold due to the progress that is happening around this region. Similarly, fighting continues to be at Pervomayske, and that the Russian forces also continue to push at Nevelske. So situation here did not really change a lot. The main changes is around here. And moving up to this area, there is fighting at Krasnohorivka in this region. Nothing else to report over here. There's a weird report that there is fighting at Toretsk, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. I'm not sure how the fighting is happened there. You see Toretsk, so a bit weird report. And that's all for the Donetsk Front. Moving on to the Bakhmut Front. At the Bakhmut Front, the Russian Defense Ministry actually claims the capture of Mayosk. This is probably the fourth or fifth time I have already reported Mayosk has been captured by the Russian side. So I'm feeling really not so confident about this capture, but this is by the Russian Defense Ministry. So let's see how this goes. Otherwise, the fighting had been reported from the 7th to the 9th. The capture is reported on the 13th. So, and currently the Russian forces continue to attack Kudyumivka. There's a counteroffensive at Oredivka, at Opayne. However, the Russians continue to struck off the counteroffensive, and they are fighting at Andrivka, Klishivka, Opayne, as well as Ivangrad. And the fighting reported at Bakhmut this is Bakhmut city. So the fighting at Bakhmut is primarily only on the southeastern part of the Bakhmut city. So the export plant region is primarily around here only, and the fighting at Soledar remains to be a stalemate. Fighting reported at Soledar on the 8th and the 10th, and there is fighting at Bakhmutski on the 8th. Fighting was reported over at Yakovlivka as well on the 9th, but the attack has been abandoned, generally speaking. So that's all from the Bakhmut Front. Moving on to the Siversk Front. At the Siversk Front, there is fighting at Sperne, at Bilohorivka, at Vasile, at Verkhan Okanyamske, and the main focus is actually at Bilohorivka. The interestingly is that while all this area is fought over by the the Russians are using the Wagner private military contractors, the Wagner PMC. The fighting reported at Bilohorivka is actually by the Luhansk People's Republic forces. So as you can see from this source from Raiba, the pro-Russian source, they said that the Russian forces, with the support of the Luhansk People's Republic militia, is fighting at Belohorovska, which is actually here. And so this is something to note. Otherwise, all this fighting at the Bakhmut and the Siversk Front is actually by the Wagner group. Moving on to the Kreminna Front. At the Kreminna Front, there was an interesting report by the Ukrainian army that there was fighting at Yampil. This is reported on the 6th, but it was not repeated again. So I think the attack has failed miserably. There's fighting reported at Torske on the 12th, and there is also this on the 12th on the Torske. Before that, on the 9th, the Ukrainians attacked Kreminna. Did not work out, and fighting. The Ukrainians continue to be pushing for Shivano-Popivka on the 7th and 8th and on the 12th, and then there was fighting reported towards in the direction of Holikove on the 9th. This is just a one-off, because generally I believe this is part of the same offensive that was pushing for Shivano-Popivka. And there is also fighting towards Ploshchanka. This is an ongoing thing, 7 to 9 and the 12th, and there is also fighting at Makivka. But the Ukrainian source, Deep State UA, announced that the Ukrainian forces has captured Makivka. So they have some photos, I think, or video confirmation of the capture. So this actually put into question into the Russian defenses around this region. The fighting reported in this region is now all invalidated. They cannot be that means the Ukrainians have succeeded in capturing, and then all this fighting has been in vain. The last fighting reported was on the 12th by the Russian Defense Ministry. The capture is reported on the 13th. Then so this is one of the latest report. And that's all from the Kreminna Front. Moving on to the Svatove Front, and Svatove, there is a fighting reported toward Svatove, and according to the Russian Defense Ministry, and one of the most major fighting is around this area here, and there's fighting reported at Zaporizhzhia from the 9th of the 10th, and then there was fighting reported at Siversk. And then there was fighting, heavy fighting in the Kupyansk, Novoselivsk region, where fighting is reported towards Kupyansk, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, from the 7th all the way to the 12th on a daily basis. And at Novoselivsk is a bit more confusing. There is to and fro. Both sides is reporting the other side is actually on the offensive. The last fighting reported is on the 13th. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, that the Ukrainian forces are attacking towards Novoselivsk, and interestingly, the Ukrainians, let me see, yeah, basically this is the same report. And moving on to further up north, there is fighting reported at Volodymyrivka, and this is the same report as per the one that was attacking towards Kupyansk. And we are now to the Kupyansk Front. This Kupyansk city, and the Kupyansk Front all the way on the very eastern direction of Kupyansk city. Fighting is reported nowhere. So all this, there's actually no fighting reported in this region, which means that the Ukrainian forces is focusing all their effort around here to try to capture the strategic city of Svatove, or strategic town. Capturing of this town, or Nizhnya Duvanka, would be a secondary, not as important as Svatove, but even capturing of this would be a huge strategic advantage or improvement for the Ukrainian side. But the objective still to be Svatove, and so they are pulling their forces here. Interestingly, there's actually no more fighting around the northeastern part of Kupyansk city. And yeah, congratulations, guys, you have completed the summary for the day of 256 to 263 for the 6th to 13th of November. A lot of information that we have gone through, and this is the final mapping, not so pinkish. And so this is the emotional damage line. Yeah, and I suspect that the Ukrainians might want to try to continue to do amphibious assaults around this entire region, because the Russian side announced that the troops that were pulled out, the 30,000 troops that were pulled out from here, they will be redeployed for offensive action. And since they withdraw to the southern bank, the offensive action is definitely not going to be over here at the southern front anymore. So maybe perhaps they're going to be redeployed to the Zaporizhzhia Line, because Zaporizhzhia region, you can actually go and capture Zaporizhzhia, and then they'll be able to push for Dnipro, or actually cross over the river to capture Nikopol and secure Hoda. And then they can actually go southward and capture Kryvyi Rih, and then go back and recapture the Kherson region. So go the one big round around, but probably a lot more easier to resupply. Of course, there is a major river here, so if the bridge is broken, same problem. So the recapture of Kherson, northern part of the Kherson region, is going to take forever. So that is the Russians' plan. They're going to push, redeploy the Russian forces, which is also why the Ukrainians is unlikely to want to allow the Russians to do that, and they might continue to launch amphibious assault across the entire river region to force the Russians to actually hold this entire long line of defenses along the entire river, because what the Ukrainians have currently is numerical advantage, and the Ukrainians should take advantage of this advantage. So anyway, this is the summary, and I'll see you in the next update.